Welcome back to Data Movers, the digital future. I'm Maxie Reynolds, CEO and founder of Subsea Cloud, and I'm with.
And I am Candice Ipos with JSA. Thank you all so much for coming back and checking out the rest of our mini-series here on Data Movers 2.0. So we are talking all things talent on this mini-series with a different kind of take on that with each episode. So the take this time is the intersection between sustainability and talent, as you can see kind of scrolling on the bottom of your screen here. And for each of these episodes, we're bringing together leaders in the industry, leaders in academia, students, as you'll see on this episode, et cetera, to talk about closing the talent gap in our digital infrastructure industry, which we all know is a very pressing concern. But first, most important question, have you read anything interesting lately, Maxie?
I have failed us again. I have not read. I need some incentive to like pick back a book. I'm basically again going into feel instead of reading, and I'll get out of it, or my IQ will plummet. We'll see. But what I did do was sort of I have one of my favorite books, like top 5 books, and I try to get through about 50 a year. So one of my like top books of all time is by Václav Smil. It's called How the World Really Works, and basically in that he emphasizes the complexity and sort of interconnectedness of modern society, and he basically highlights the critical role of energy and material flows in like sustaining civilization. And he argues that achieving sustainability, as we are sort of trying to do it, requires a bit more of a pragmatic understanding of the limits of current technologies. It's just a very, very interesting book. He looks at it from the other side. He, I think, comes over a little sort of pessimistic, but actually it's very pragmatic, and he sort of advocates for this gradual evidence-based shift towards sustainability, and it's sort of applicable to today. So I skim read my notes on that because, yes, I take notes on the books that I read so that I can, outsmart people at conferences, but I have to look at my phone first. So that's kind of, that's all I've got for you.
I love that. I love that. Everybody, if you don't already know, the reason that we started starting the episodes this way is because Maxie is well known for her roundups of books that she's read recently on LinkedIn. So definitely follow her on LinkedIn and check those out. I was very excited to see JSA's Data Movers.
And I'm merciless. Like I give 0 out of 10 for, if I hate a book, I hate the book. But let's go to something a little lighter. Have you watched, read, listened to anything interesting?
Yeah, well, I mean, typically, I talk about something that's completely unrelated to business.
Yes.
But I will say I was listening to How I Built This, the podcast with Guy Raz this morning, and they have this like series as part of that podcast called Advice Line, where they get some kind of serial entrepreneur on and take questions over the phone from like budding entrepreneurs and give them advice on things in business. So it's kind of like catnip for people in business, I think. And there was just this really tiny nugget on there where they talked about authenticity being such a buzzword. So this is kind of related to sustainability. See, I'm bringing it to
there we go.
So they were talking about how it's become such a buzzword in business. And Guy Raz said this line that really struck home with me. He said, authenticity is when you don't actually have to worry about using that word. That's when you actually have achieved it, so to speak. So I thought that was really good. Just one liner on that.
Well, yeah, because it's impactful, and immediately you kind of know how to course correct if you're worried about authenticity. It's a shortcut to, oh, this is maybe the direction I should go to be more authentic with myself. It's just very zingy. I don't think I articulated that well, but listen, it's been a long week. So
you used a word.
I use what I'm like photosynthesis. Do I sound smart now?
10 out of 10 on the word.
Shall we get smart people to talk now?
Yes, I think that's a very good idea. We are very excited to have 4 panelists, so to speak. That sounds a little too official. 4 participants in today's episode. So we're talking about the intersection of sustainability and talent in the digital infrastructure industry specifically. And we have found 4 experts with various perspectives. I'm really excited about this. We've got 2 data center operator executives, 1 industry sustainability advisor, 1 climate change master's student. So definitely different perspectives on this. And we'll start with some stats as usual.
Yes, we will. So the ones I have this week are very interesting in terms of, okay, let me just start them and you can decide if they're interesting. But essentially, we know that data center operators are facing this immense pressure from investors, customers, partners, employees, just across the board to go green. And Gartner, obviously very well respected, predicted that like 3/4 of organizations will implement a data center infrastructure sustainability program by 2027. So that's a jump from only 5% in 2022. That's a staggering stat. If you in pure numbers, that's crazy. And then according to Sunbird, nearly 90% of organizations report that their data center sustainability and efficiency is very important or somewhat important. Those multiple choice questions. While about 60% of organizations have a goal date for zero carbon emissions, and 40% of them are working towards a sustainability plan. So it's, they're interesting stats. Let's see if they mean anything in 2027. Let's do this in 2027, and then let's call out the people that didn't work towards that goal. Is that too aggressive?
I love it. I love it. All right. And now we are going to start bringing in one by one our group of experts here. So we'll start with Anna Dawson, Senior Director of Sustainability for Green Scale Data Centers. And I should say on the most recent IM 100 list, which is very impressive. So Anna, thank you for joining us today. And as a way of introduction, could you just give us the elevator pitch on how you got into the digital infrastructure industry?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. So I studied engineering with a focus on environmental design of buildings way back when. Let's not talk dates. And I started my career in an engineering consultancy company as a mechanical engineer. But I really wanted to be on like the sustainability team and looking at the core sustainability elements of buildings. I eventually started an engineering doctorate research project with an engineering consultancy company and the university to look at the discrepancies between energy efficiency predictions and actual consumption, which was a really exciting 4 years. And it kind of took me from the design more into operation. And then I eventually went to work for Tesco, big food retailer in the UK, looking at their energy program, anything to do with energy at Tesco. I was involved. So projects, renewable energy, EV charging, the whole shebang. So I was there for about a decade and I felt like I'd learned everything, delivered everything I could. And I got a random call asking if I wanted to consider a role in data centers at CBRE. And I thought it was so exciting. I was like, are you calling the right person? I've never been inside a data center. Like, are you sure? But I was so excited because it is such an exciting industry to be a part of. And I think now more than ever. And that was the beginning of my data center career. I set up ESG strategy for CBRE, GWS, and then more recently, 2 months ago, started at Green Scale, which I'm super excited about because it's in the name, right? It is core to our vision, and super excited.
Wow, you've packed a lot in. That's incredible. That's a laundry list of amazing, well-known brands there. So congrats. And also, very tricky question. What one word comes to mind when you think about the intersection of sustainability and talent in our industry?
Opportunity.
Love it. Perfect.
Yes, that's great. What a lead up. You have packed a lot, and that's amazing. Okay, next up we have Karen Petersburg, Vice President of Data Center Development and Construction for AREP, the team behind Powerhouse Data Centers. Very interesting, very cool. So Karen, by way of introduction then, what brought you into the digital infrastructure industry?
It's a pretty unique path, probably. I was not at all like everybody else, not anticipating ever being in the data center industry. So when I first started working my career as a GC, I was doing tenant improvements, so tenant fit outs, and they needed somebody in the mission critical sector to help out on a project, one of Equinix's buildings, first buildings here in Ashburn. And so I said, sure. And then I got to see the mechanical and electrical systems first, up front, and worked with the teams on the control side of things. And I just fell in love with the complexity of how the systems work together in an orchestrated manner, and how important it is to have them working to make sure that the server environment is optimized, right? And so I just never looked back from there.
Interesting. It's amazing how many people get this little glimpse or this little shot in the industry and fall in love with it. It's a really interesting way in for people. Okay, and then one word that comes to mind then when you think about the intersection of sustainability and talent in our industry.
Inseparable.
Ooh, interesting. Ooh, I like that.
Good word. All right.
Word.
Thank you, Karen. Excited to chat more with you when we bring everyone together. Next up, we've got Lauren Long, Managing Director for Clear Sustainability and Director of Sustainability for DIAL, which stands for Digital Infrastructure Advisors Limited, and also a longtime friend of JSA TV. Thank you for being here, Lauren. And same question for you.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And what brought you into the industry?
Well, mine's not nearly as exciting. I was in the telecom space, and a friend of mine and I looked at where the data center industry was going as opposed to telecom, and we co-founded a data center company. That was one of the first edge-focused data centers before edge was even really a thing, and grew that, and was fortunate to exit that, at which point I turned my career entirely towards sustainability, and we also do due diligence and assessments around sustainability and regulations.
Wow. I can tell that you've had to do this before, the elevator pitch thing. That was very succinct. I was expecting longer, but you really succinct there. What is one word that comes to mind for you for the intersection of sustainability and talent in our industry?
Yeah, the last two words were really good, right? I'm going to go with a hyphenated word, company-wide.
All right, we'll allow it.
We'll
okay, thank you.
For you. Okay. It is a good word though, and it all-encompassing. I like it. We will allow. Okay, so then lastly, we've got Luke Miller. I think climate change management and finance master's student at Imperial College London, which is very cool. So look, just to start off a little bit of your background in terms of sustainability and things of that nature, like what is your background? What are your interests there?
So yeah, as you said, I'm not directly involved in the industry at the moment. I've sort of been involved in it from the periphery. I was an infrastructure masons student member during my undergraduate degree. So I've been sort of aware of it as my godfather Simon Allen is in it. But I worked for a conservation program once I finished my undergraduate degree in northeastern Zambia, where I was part of a team which protected the only populations of black rhino in the country. So very lucky and privileged to do something like that. And that sort of naturally led me to undertaking my master's degree, which I was impressed you're able to say climate change management and finance is a bit of a tongue twister. So that sort of naturally led me to this. And I'm now sort of being in London, I've been able to attend a few digital infrastructure events, but also just completed a project looking at the carbon footprint of chip manufacturers. So sort of keeping my eyes on the space, because I think it is a very interesting space and definitely is a space which I'll be interested to work in upon graduation. And I think what's funny about all the other guests, it's a space I've never thought about working in, but now the more I get to know it, like the more interested you become in it. So it's good to see that sort of other people here who are sort of, at that end of the spectrum, whereas I'm just starting off, I've sort of started in a similar journey.
Interesting. Yeah, the modern world is built upon chips and will continue to be that way. On the report that you were talking about for the carbon footprint of chips, will that be published, or is it published?
No, it's just a university, like part of our project. Yeah, so not published, unfortunately.
Great. That's very cool. Very interesting. I would be very interested in those results. I know you're kind of not in our industry yet, so to speak, but given what you know about it, what one word sort of comes to mind for you when you think about the intersection of sustainability and talent for our industry?
I think the word which comes to mind is urgent.
Yeah,
I agreed. We'll say no more about it.
So I think this whole podcast is an elaborate ploy for us to get loose into the industry, because it's such an incredible background with sustainability, and we need more of that, right? In our industry, the kind of passion and genuine interest in making a change with the sustainability aspect. So on that note, I would bring everybody back together here for a quick group discussion, and we'll go back to the beginning and start with you, Anna. So just kind of a stage setting question. How would you characterize the importance of sustainability within our industry right now? I have an idea of what you might say there. And it's a two-parter. How important will it be in the career trajectories of digital infrastructure professionals over the next few years?
A lot to pack in there, and as I think we've gathered, I'm not the most succinct person, so I will do my best to be quick. I think it's imperative. I think there is no other way, considering just how much demand there is for the services that data centers provide, that there is no other way than exponential growth. But the only way we'll be able to grow exponentially is to do it sustainably. There is a lot of embargoes already on data centers, communities saying, not my backyard. And if we're not careful, that will become the norm. So it is absolutely imperative that we develop with sustainability at the core of what we do. And really, it's about walking the walk. It's not just about talking the talk. Obviously, it's not about glossy reports and wonderful visions that then don't translate into reality. It's about really embedding sustainability in everything we do, and considering the communities that we're impacting, so on and so forth. And I think just the second part of the question, that's a loaded question. It's hard. I'm going to try and be succinct, but there is already an increasing number of sustainability professionals in the industry, and it's really exciting to see kind of new titles kind of popping up. You see chief sustainability officers, you see VPs of sustainability, and all that kind of really cool, exciting titles. But sustainability is a horizontal, it's not a vertical, and it can't all sit in a single person's lap, right? So it's got to be part of pretty much everyone's role in some shape or form. So it's understanding how every single individual in the organization can contribute towards sustainability aims, and it's about that sustainability person or team to pull it all together and set the vision and make sure that we're going in the right direction and tracking progress, etc. So it's my vision anyway.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, Anna. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I want to jump in, but I feel like I'm just going to echo what she has to say, or what she just said. I think it's just the importance of sustainability is just extremely important to becoming absolutely necessary. With the increasing demands from the AI workloads, we're seeing a huge demand on the energy generation and transmission, and what that looks like, which you're seeing hyperscale companies kind of backing off some of their what their goals are, and that it looks like on the surface that it means that sustainability is not as important, but I don't think that's true. I think that that's just a challenge that's coming because of the rising demand. And what's actually happening is that sustainability is even more important now because of what also Anna had mentioned. We're getting this rising passionate community groups, right, that are coming to the forefront now because of the negative things that they're reading, and they don't really understand our industry and how we're really based on this idea around efficiency and what that means to us when it means operating a data center itself. And so what you're seeing there is this intersection between the rising demand from AI and then this increasing problematic situation from the public perception. And so it's going to require a different approach to sustainability itself. And I think that really looks like similar to what Anna was saying, but it's it's revisiting how we understand ESG to the point where we're putting the human first, and we're really putting the attention on what does it mean to interact with a human as an end, not necessarily a means to an end. And that happens like across the board, like projects, people, processes. And we have to be thinking about those relationships in unique and innovative ways, so much so that we're including our communities in that conversation. So our industry then becomes integrated into the communities in different ways. And one of the ways that we do that is with community engagement programs. You know, if we develop them as part of our projects that are so ingrained with what the community needs and what the project can offer, if it's done thoughtfully and strategically, you can create a program that outlasts the project, so that the community engagement aspect becomes what I would say sustainable in and of itself. And I think that's going to be increasingly important in order for us to truly combat what we're seeing happening along the landscape these days. So
yeah, I think you're right. We do see that across technologies. If the public doesn't have a technical understanding, or if it's hard to sort of transfer the knowledge of the technology because it is very technical, then we do face like NIMBYism and things like that. But one of the questions I had for you, like the question I was going to ask you, and feel free to answer it, was what sustainability focused skills should professionals develop to sort of stay competitive? But I wonder if one of your answers would be community outreach and engagement. Like, would you consider that a sustainability focused skill?
I think that that's something that it's not necessarily a skill. It's more of honing in on the human aspect of the person. So what is it the person really is passionate about, and then finding the community needs that align with the person's goals. And then if it becomes a part of the company's programmatic thinking and strategic plan, what you'll find is that your employees then feel like they're making a difference, not just to the company, but to the community. And it gives them a sense of purpose, a feeling of belonging. And then they have a sense of ownership. And then it grows into a new way of being a part of a company and a community and a project. So I don't think it's necessarily a skill set. It might be a skill set on the leadership side, so that they're thinking differently about how they engage with their employees, so that they're optimizing on what's important to those people and what they care about. And I think that's going to become more and more important, because the students that are coming out of the colleges these days, Luke can attest to this, but they're all coming with a more sustainable mindset, a more sustainable perspective. And so we have to be able to be open and perceptive to what these new ideas are, in order to be able to make sure that we're getting and giving them the opportunities that they need to succeed, and help the company succeed in a larger way.
So not skill, so to speak, but style.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add to those points?
You know, I was just going to add, I don't think sustainability as a concept is incredibly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just energy, it's not just carbon emissions, it's not just water, it's land use, it's diversity, it's social impact, and beyond just the neighborhood in which we operate. And the more you study sustainability, it almost seems like a game of whack-a-mole sometimes. You fix this problem over here and you caused another problem over there. And if only because I want to be part of the Maxie Reynolds book club, there's a book called Cobalt Red, which is all about the cobalt mining and trade globally, which is a critical raw material for our industry. And it's understanding, wow, that's really bad. And we have to fix that too, even though it's not necessarily in our backyards, that it has an impact globally. And I think the other thing that has changed for our industry, but really it's all industries, is that sustainability is no longer an aspirational thing. It's not a, gosh, I hope we should try to. It's, I live in the UK and I operate mostly in the UK and the EU. It's a regulated thing now. There are regulations. There's multiple directives coming out of the EU. So it's no longer an aspiration. And the claims that we put forward and the strategies that we pursue need to have validated results to back up the claims we make. And I think that changes a lot, which when we bring that to the talent side, we need holistic thinking across an organization. Sustainability is no longer within just the sustainability group. It's with the finance, it's with the operators, it's with the lawyers. It is now a company-wide effort.
Do you think that regulations, without getting into like the politics of it, do you think regulations have and can keep up with the pace of, technology and how we're moving?
That's a great question. That's not the question I thought you were going to ask.
Well, let's answer the one you thought I was going to ask, because maybe it's better.
Well, one question that I hear a lot is, are regulations good, or are they necessary, or are they hurting our industry? And I would say there are operators and developers that operate as sustainably as they possibly can.
Mhm.
And sustainability programs cost. Buying greener steel costs more. Buying greener concrete costs more. Depending on how you get your power, if you're seeking lower emissions, could cost more. And regulation helps to level the playing field to help the people who are doing it the right way. So I'm all for it. Do I think that regulations can keep up? If you look at the corporate sustainability due diligence directive that will be coming online soon, which requires companies to mitigate and measure, validate, and mitigate social and environmental impacts throughout their supply chain. That's an incredibly invasive regulation, and literally no one in our industry can escape from having to report against it. So in that regard, I think the net that has been thrown, yeah, it's going to keep up.
Okay.
One thing I'd just like to mention there, I know you said that some of the sustainability practices can cost more, and I'd like to kind of argue against that, right? I think that there are perceptions that things can cost more, but I think if you're developing and designing a building in a mindful, sustainably way, you can evaluate the costs, and you can still do it within the budget without impacting, without taking the power costs aside, right? Because that's different, right? If you're talking about RECs and things like that, but the steel and other things, I don't see that as necessarily a large cost driver. And I think one of the things that we constantly are fighting against is this perception that sustainability measures cost more. And I think as a collective industry, we should be thinking or speaking slightly differently about that, if possible. If that makes sense.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
say that. I'll just say that I think for example, recently the iMasons Climate Accord came out with a, gosh, I don't even know how you phrase it. It was, we'll say it's an industry plea that everyone needs to get together and start doing accurate environmental product declarations, for example. And those, doing a proper LCA is a very resource intensive process. And when you're looking at vendors that have hundreds or thousands of potential products, to get those done accurately takes time and resources. And so we should expect that would affect cost. And so it's an investment in the earth. It's not just that it, costs more. I'm not talking about a green, an additional cost just for the sake of being sustainable. It's the investment to help us become more sustainable.
Yeah. Larger investments.
Oh, sorry.
Do you mind if I just add something to that? I mean, I think just a quick point. I think what's quite interesting is we no longer complain about producing financial statements. Every year, a company produces its net revenue, its profit. All of these things are disclosed. And we're going to move towards that in the sustainability space. And just like you have an accounting team to account for money, we're going to have an accounting team to account for carbon and all these sustainability practices, ESG in the future. And I think that's the way we're moving. And this is just a cost we're going to have to consider in business moving forwards. And if we think about it in that way, then it's not really a negative. It's just something we have to do. Just like you have to report your net profit every year to your shareholders and your stakeholders. So I think framing in that way makes it seem a bit more manageable. And I think it will be in 10 to 15 years.
That's a really good point, Luke. And actually, and I'm going off script here a little bit, Maxie, just so you know, I think I'm stealing your question, but I wanted to ask you, Luke, just to kind of really hone in on the talent piece of this, about educational programs and training courses, since you're in one that, you know, while it may not be very specific to digital infrastructure, it's specific to climate change and sustainability. So I'm just curious your thoughts on how, just generally globally, we can be better equipping the next generation of workers for this kind of intersection between tech and sustainability from a education standpoint.
I think at the moment, it's like when I tell a lot of business people I'm doing a climate change degree, they sort of knock me off because it's like, oh, you're costing me more money. Then they hear the finance part, they're like, oh, wait, what? So I think I'm really lucky. I've got a degree which is at this brilliant intersection of climate science with finance. And it's actually a degree which explains how we can work with the existing system and change the system from within towards a greener future. And as opposed to what a lot of it is like, you in climate change, you're against business. No, I'm in climate change, I'm for business. And I think there needs to be more degrees which sort of combine these things. So let's combine tech with climate change. And I think there are a lot of new interesting programs across the globe which are doing this. And I hope to see more students have the opportunity, which I have, to sort of explore this space.
I love that. Any other thoughts on that question from the folks who are inside the industry? Like, how can we be better equipping a new generation of workers for this intersection?
I think. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to kind of build on the previous piece I mentioned around kind of sustainability being a horizontal. I think that makes it really hard to teach in a way, because you can't go deep on all the pillars. You need to be a bit of a generalist, but you're still within a specialist topic. And I think one of the bits that is truly core to a good sustainability professional is the stakeholder management side of things. So the softer skills, and I know we touched about this earlier as well, but you can be super knowledgeable on everything, but if you're not bringing together everyone on the journey and talking their language, you're probably not going to go very far, in my opinion. In that you can't do it all by yourself. You're going to have to lean on other people in your company. So that stakeholder management, influencing skills is so important. And it's also just a little bit harder to teach in a kind of a formal academic environment. So it's not an easy job. I think Luke, what you're saying, you know, your experience, people go like, what, climate change is all a bit fluffy. I mean, I come from an era that if you said you worked sustainability, you're a tree hugger. You know, at least I think now it's a little bit more, you know, it's maybe, I could be wrong, but it's a bit cool to be in sustainability. It's kind of in at the moment, but 20 years ago, it wasn't. You kind of need to roll with the punches a little bit, but it's about talking the right language, the right people, and bringing stakeholders on the journey with you.
It'll be very interesting to see what it looks like in 20 years from now, if we get it right. So long as we're truthful, and as long as we don't lie to the public and they don't think that we're using fossil fuel, because we don't want to use wind like this. If we could have people understand just the concept of attenuation or the storage challenges we have, then I think it would be a little bit easier, but it's very hard to do. Candice, do we move now to our lightning round?
I think we do.
Let's start with you, Anna, then. In 15 seconds or less, what is your top piece of career advice for high schoolers or college students?
Don't underestimate the soft skills, the communication skills. Don't get too bogged down on the technical knowledge. Obviously important, but don't underestimate the soft skills.
Yes. Ooh, I like it. Yes. Okay, let's go. Karen, same question to you.
I think I would tell them to know themselves. and to really understand what success looks like. And the softer skills are applied, in the knowing themselves, but it's going to become really important in order to be able to really truly empathize and interact as a human, on the human level with another person.
Okay, interesting. Lauren.
Okay, I'm going to go the opposite direction.
Woo.
Don't run from the science, technology, and engineering fields, because in a technological world, at least having a foundation to understand is paramount, certainly to operate in our industry.
It's crucial. I totally agree. And look,
I would say be open-minded and curious.
Yeah.
And just see where that takes you. Like a year ago, I was in a national park in the middle of Africa. Now I'm in the middle of London. I'm just as happy in both places. But yeah, take those opportunities and see where it goes.
Great. Yeah, I like that, and that's very applicable to your generation, and to hear from someone in the same age, I think, is probably important. Okay, so we'll start back with Anna, and the question is, what personality trait do you look for most in candidates?
Passion,
Okay.
curiosity,
Yeah.
thirst for knowledge,
Yeah.
and back to the communication skills. I feel like a broken record, but yeah,
Oh,
super important.
it's critical. You're absolutely right. All right, and then I think we went to Karen next.
I think once the technical skills are confirmed, I think kindness and having an open heart is really what I pay attention to. I want everybody on the team to be good people.
Fair enough. Lauren, I hope you're like, we're going the opposite way. I want serial killers on the.
I'll fall in line, but Banana did take 3, so that's like not fair. No, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
No one expects you to have all the answers, and it's a team effort, and you only learn through failure.
Very true. And feel fast. Like, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? All right, Luke, same question.
Well, I'm not an employer. Obviously, I'm a student, so I'm unemployed. But I'll flip the question and say, what do I think we as students are looking for in employers? Because I think that's an equally important question. And I think it's genuineness. And I think it's what Candace said at the beginning about being authentic. And we want to work for organizations who do genuinely want to make a difference and have a positive impact. So I think showing that is key for us.
Fair enough. And you did outsmart me. Then, all right, third final. And we'll start with you. If you could instantly master a new business skill, what would it be?
I think 10 years of experience. I think,
All right, we'll come back to you. You're getting a little big for your boots. Anna, you go first.
So it would probably be accounting. So I've got a technical background. I think I can hold my own speaking to engineers, talking to the finance guys. I know enough, but not really enough to hold my own. So, Luke, 10 years from now, you'll have what I want today. Well, you have it tomorrow probably, but
probably.
to a degree.
Fine. It is intimidating, but I might agree with you. I don't actually want it, but I do need it. So yes. Karen, same
What
question.
if I don't have to work for it?
Yeah. As long as I have to do nothing.
I think Anna and I share the same brain, because finance is 100% same for me. I mean, I don't want it either, like you, Maxie, but like it's important and it's necessary in order to keep moving forward and moving these incentives and what we care about forward with the CEOs of the company, etc. So.
Yes, Lauren.
No, unfortunately, yes. You spend all day with iBankers, and you understand about half of what they say, and you're like, man, I really should have paid attention in that class.
You understand half? Teach us.
So for curves and
I just nod, but yes. Look,
right.
If you
okay, I'll answer this question now. This is more of a soft skill. I would say empathy, just being able to really understand what people want and need. And that, I think that's a really key soft skill, which just helps you in life, but also obviously in business.
Well, yeah, and it's the other side of what you're talking about. You want from companies. You want to work for something that's impactful, positively, positive EV. All right, I think we've wrapped this up in good time. Most people stuck to 15 seconds. Candice, you did not enforce that, but it's all right.
Well, I think Lauren and I should have switched places there. I wouldn't have had as good answers, but I think you'd be good at that. Yeah.
I was going to say, is anybody having a hard time believing this is Luke's first podcast?
Oh, he's amazing.
This is my first podcast.
Yeah.
I'm hiring you tomorrow.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we wrap this up on a high note before I say anything, stupid. So it's coming. Okay. So, but a huge thank you to all of our guests here. It was really interesting. It was cheeky, and I enjoyed it. But thank you to obviously our guests, but our viewers and our listeners for hanging out with us too for this episode. And then you can check us out on jsa.net/JSA TV or the YouTube channel, which is Jamie Scotto TV, for more episodes. And you can find all of us, I think, on LinkedIn. Luke, are you on LinkedIn?
I am, yeah.
Perfect. So you can find all of us on LinkedIn, and please feel free to connect. And then we'll see you for the next episode. Bye.
Everybody go tell Luke
Thanks,
how
y'all.
amazing he did. And
Yeah.
This is his 50th
Yes.
podcast.
Yes. Nice. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.